is Global Telling. You have a prepaid call from
Jeremy?
an inmate at Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now.
My son deserves to be in prison. What he did was wrong. But that's not what this story's about.
My name is Elizabeth Stewart, and I live in San Diego, California. I knew I wanted to either work with animals or helping people. I found myself going to nursing school.
During this time, I had 2 children, Danny and Jeremy.
I was a typical mom. I liked to take the kids on local adventures. Dad wasn't around much, so it was very difficult for both of my children. Jeremy loved playing sports. We played soccer, karate. We also did football. He had this amazing heart. He loved church. But he'd also be that little boy down there pulling out the flowers when nobody was looking. He had this little mischievous side to him. Jeremy started struggling. He started hanging out with the wrong group. Found himself using weed to start off with, and I found out because I got a call that he had been busted and he had a bag of empty seeds, marijuana seeds, and I'm like, what the heck? My young boy. Jeremy first started using crystal meth when he was in 9th grade. He was young. It was just popular. It was everywhere, and it was cheap. He stopped going to school. He had a hard time. He was able to get his GED. After that, he saw an open garage. Very tempting to a young boy walking by. Nobody was around, but he went into the garage. He saw a DVD player sitting on a counter, and he grabbed it and ran with it. And that's how Jeremy ended up with his first strike. They come up to you and they say, you're going to do a lot of time. You either take this deal or we're going to put you away. And it scared me, and I'm sitting there as his mom, petrified, and I'm telling him, what do you think to the public defender? He's saying, I'd advise he takes a deal, but it comes with a strike. Now, I didn't know what that actually meant. Okay, he gets a strike. What does that mean? It means that he'll get less time. Oh, sounds like a good thing.
Strike 3, you're out!
Within the state of California, you could be arrested for the same crime and get different sentencing, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. My name is William Roberts. I worked for the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office for 27 years. You get the best justice money can buy in this country, and it's still true. This 3 strikes law, well-intended, turned out to be a disaster. We need to fix it, and we need to make it retroactive. When 3 strikes was first proposed to the California people, It was in the aftermath of a Polly class kidnapping. She was kidnapped in the middle of the night, right from her family's home.
In the search for 12-year-old Polly Klaas, they're now coping with the discovery of her body over the weekend. Tomorrow, Richard Allen Davis will be charged with kidnapping and murder. Adding to the agony is the news that Davis is a repeat offender.
It was things like that that led to the outrage of people who had been committing violent felonies, getting back out, committing more felonies, going to prison, getting back out. To the general public, it appeared that prison was just a joke.
When people complain about repeat offenders, they're talking about a man like Richard Allen Davis. Davis has been sentenced 6 times, receiving anywhere from 6 months to a maximum of 25 years. Today, the state attorney general called for a new law that would bring 3-time felons a life sentence.
For the worst repeat offenders, it's time to seal shut the revolving door in our criminal justice system.
3 strikes, you're out, you don't get to be in society anymore. They thought if we take these bad people off the street, we'll all be happier, society will be better. Nobody ever thought at the time that it would be applied to nonviolent felonies.
Jeremy was released shortly after that. He did a year at that point. Using crystal and marijuana, even alcohol, at a young age when you don't work, you're going to start looking for ways to get money. It's part of the addictive process. I believe this is what caused Jeremy to start breaking into homes, his addiction. Jeremy's second strike was for breaking into a home while the residents were out to steal jewelry. David was born in 2008, while Jeremy was incarcerated on his second strike.
And a few months later, Jeremy was released, and he met David for the first time and was able to hold him. As far as I knew, Jeremy was doing good at that time. He was going to the NA meetings. Then a few months passed. He found out he was having another child. His wife was pregnant.
I couldn't imagine Jeremy would do anything wrong. He started working for a solar company, but it was part-time. He had a hard time finding a job. He had a strike, a felon. I kept asking him, how are you paying for your rent? What's up, Jeremy? Come on, talk to me. Let me know what's going on.
He told me he was doing some odd jobs, whatever he could.
So I wanted to believe him, even though that little inside voice was telling me something was wrong.
But the truth, Jeremy was back on drugs and committing crimes.
He had knocked on the door and asked around, pretending to be a salesperson, a common thing that thieves do. No one was there, so he entered the home and he stole some belongings. It was about $300 worth of property and some busted up laptops that didn't even work. And he was incarcerated for that. So for $300 worth of stuff, he ended up in this big mess. The attorney that I hired, he told me, Jeremy's going to get double digits. Be prepared for that, Liz. So I'm thinking 15, 16 years, and to me that was a lifetime. The trial, it was tough. There was no deal offered. We kept hoping that the courts would say, look, we'll give you 20 years and you sign the deal. The sentencing day, Judge David Gill's courtroom 28. And he looked at my son and he told him he had no business having children. He told him addiction played no factor in this, nor did his children. And he gave him 25 for each strike, for each of those homes he entered. And then he said 2 nickels doubled up. 2 nickels doubled up? What did that mean? I had no clue. All I knew is I thought my son got 25 years. I called the attorney and I said, can you please explain to me what happened to my son, how much time he got? And Alexis told me, your son got 70 years. I felt like my heart was ripped out. I thought, I gotta get a support group. I'm not gonna survive this. So I Googled support groups. I typed in 3 strikes. For someone who doesn't know how to do computers, I was pretty impressed with myself. Then I discovered Jerry Silva's name. And I got on the phone immediately that day.
My name is Jerry Silva, and we are currently in Chuco's Justice Center, which is an amazing place in Inglewood, California. 3 strikes is a law that was passed in March of '94. They sold the 3 strikes law by saying that it would take the murders and the rapists off the streets, that people didn't have to fear anymore. Essentially, it was a repeat offender law. But when you read the quote-unquote fine print, it was getting anybody off the street, a person with property crimes off the streets. We formed an organization called Families to Amend California's 3 Strikes, or FACTS, an organization that took this on from the perspective of families fighting against this. Families who had people just stolen from them.
And Jerry said, we need someone in San Diego. And I went, okay. No, I didn't want to volunteer for this. She said, you want to help your son? I said, yes. She goes, you're going to be my San Diego leader, chapter leader. I had no clue what I was doing. I said, okay. I went up to LA, attended a couple of meetings with Jerry. They were given a class on what to do, how to start writing stories. Get it out there, you have to write your story. I'm talking about senators, congressmen. I'm writing to everybody. I even have put forth 2 bill proposals or initiatives. Currently, that's in Sacramento being reviewed today. One person can make a big change. One person can have a loud voice. And I believe I am that one. So I became an activist, speaking up for my son and all the other 3 strikers out there.
That is control. Want to register? We have the registration here so you can do the presidential campaign. It's important to vote. Are you a registered voter? Yes, I am. Would you like to sign our bill proposal, please, to help Governor Brown to save taxes?
I've had people I'm talking to passing out my flyers that say my brother, my cousin, my neighbor, my sister. We have more prisoners in the United States incarcerated than any other nation.
In 2004, Prop 66, which was a bill to amend the 3 strikes, went on the ballot. It was doing really well. The public was very much in favor of it. All the polls showed the public really wanted that. And Towards the last 3 weeks of the campaign, Governor Schwarzenegger, who had just decided he was going to lead the charge against reforming 3 strikes, our hero, he got 4 former governors go out together in this little band of law and order men who were going to save us from our misconception about the 3 strikes law.
Under Proposition 66, 26,000 dangerous criminals will be released from prison. Child molesters, rapists, murderers. Keep them off the streets and out of your neighborhood. Vote no on 66. Keep them behind bars.
My God, that's just our new governor. We just got him in, and he's a pretty good guy. And why would he lie? Why would he say that if it's not true?
Rapists, child molesters, 26,000 dangerous criminals will be released from prison under Proposition 66.
But beyond that, all those pictures were certainly not of people who committed murder, rape, or child molestation. A lot of them wrote us, families to him, and afterwards says, he disparaged me. I never did any of that. So he put up pictures of people that didn't commit the crimes. And secondly, Prop 66 would never release not a soul. Everybody would have had to go before a judge to apply to get resentenced. And thirdly, and very importantly, it would have applied to about 4,000 people, maybe 5, not 26,000. So his lies, they defeated Prop 66. What that did to the populace, the people in prison, some of whom committed suicide, because they went to bed thinking they were going to get out.
I'm James Whitehouse. I'm dealing with Jeremy's appeal. You do the appeal sometimes just because that's what you do. I have some clients that are in for 45 years and they tell me, I know this is a long shot, and I understand that. Okay, we're going to do it. And it's exciting when you get a case that has good issues, and Jeremy did. And so it was disappointing to lose it.
The day Jeremy was sentenced to those 70 years, I honestly had no idea what I was going to do. I was depressed. There was no way I could imagine my son dying in prison, and that's what he's been given, is a death term sentence. He's going to die there if I don't do something.
Unfortunately, he was, stealing money to support his drug habit. He was convicted of 2 burglaries, nonviolent, he never used a weapon, there was no one home, no chance of anyone getting hurt. Now these are serious crimes. I understand I've had my house broke into. So for 2 nonviolent breaking and entering charges, he's doing 70 to life, which is almost 3 times as long as you or I would get for a first-degree premeditated murder. I think that's ridiculous. But even if you're a tough on crime type of person, what you have to realize is that you and I are paying for that. You know, every single person that goes to prison costs us money, but it doesn't just do that, it takes them out of the workforce. It takes them out of the tax base. These people aren't there for their kids, for their parents. Now that costs you and me a fortune, not just in paying money for guards and stuff, but also people that come out with drug problems that don't get treated, they go back to using drugs. People who have problems, other problems, social problems, they go back to committing more crime. Now in California, it's a 75% recidivism rate in 3 years. That means for every 10 people that get out, more than 7 of them come back. In fact, we have the highest recidivism rate of all other 50 states. We could do what any one of them is doing and it would get better. The reason it's this way is because our politicians have chosen this is the way they want it. It's the Prison Guards Union is the single biggest lobbying group in the state. And they've been that way for 35 years. The single biggest lobbyer in California. And that is why our prison system gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Virtually all Schedule I controlled substances are felonies, and many Schedule II controlled substances are felonies. This has exacerbated the prison overcrowding. We in California spend tens of thousands of dollars every year to keep these people in prison.
$62,300 per inmate. I don't know that many people that make that much money in California. That's not the average income.
That's a lot of money, a lot of money. So definitely people benefit from prison, not the prisoners, not the people in the state of California. They're not making us safer, and they're not rehabilitating people that go into them, but they are enriching a certain section of society.
These are things that we as a society can fix, but if we lock everybody up, all we're doing is increasing the amount of money that we spend on prisons, which could be re-spent on education and schools. We now spend more money per person on incarceration than we do on educating our own children.
When Jeremy went to prison, was incarcerated for his 70 years, I took custody of the children. It was too hard for Rachel, their mother. She just wasn't able to provide for him financially. She became depressed. And I heard rumors she was using drugs too. Shortly thereafter, she was arrested. And the kids have been with me since. They're my godsend.
There's an awesome program that the churches do throughout San Diego. It's called Angel Tree, and it's a way of taking care of the children of inmates. And they asked Jeremy what gift he wants to give the kids. So it's going to be exciting to see what they walk in with. We have no idea what the kids are getting this year, and it's something that Jeremy wanted to give to his children on behalf of him for Christmas. I have no idea. Yeah, oh, thank you for coming back.
Oh, I wish I could. Yes, it did. It had something on it. Oh, what is it? What is it? Get it out. No, it's for you to do. Come on. Oh, my God.
I know so many women who are raising their grandkids because they have a child incarcerated. The punitive incarceration is now working against another generation who is being raised without their father figure, or by a single parent, or by a grandparent. We're really destroying the fabric of the families through these kinds of policies. I'm Gretchen Burns-Bergman, and I'm the co-founder of A New Path, Parents for Addiction Treatment and Healing. Experimenting with drugs is part of the human experience. But I can't sugarcoat this. There's a correlation between addiction and crime. I had my first son in 1971. 5 days later, President Richard Nixon declared the war on drugs. I had no idea at that time how many families like mine would suffer because of these punitive prohibitionist policies. I knew that this was wrong, and so it was my responsibility to learn as much as I could. And what I found out was that we were mishandling this terribly. We were making the situation much worse. We were criminalizing people who had a problem that was a solvable problem.
Now, Fassbender's mother and brother were there to support him, but as it stands, the DA plans to prosecute the case to the hilt, even if it means life in prison for Fassbender under California's controversial three-strikes law. Robert Fassbender is in court for a petty theft charge of not paying for some donuts he ate but didn't pay for last November. The family says Fassbender is a reformed convict leading a Christian life, sometimes tortured by drug use.
Sometimes tortured by drug use. Sometimes tortured by drug use.
The prison system is set up to protect the community. People forget about that. And loved ones forget about that when their loved ones have committed that crime. If they can't stop themselves, then the law is set up to stop them and deter them from maybe potentially killing someone. That's why I like to work with drug-addicted people. In America, faith-based recovery has the highest success rate over all the recoveries, faith-based. I do believe in the prison system. I believe that prison does work. I've seen it work for a lot of people. What I do inside the prison is giving direction to these men in a biblical sense. And in that, there'll be correction. In that, there'll be encouragement. Many inmates will come in and spill their heart out, spill their life out. And Jeremy was one of those guys. Talked highly about his mom, how his mom is active in his life, helping to get some awareness of his sentence. Forgiveness is for everybody, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, including for Obama if he wants it, and including for you if you want it. In order for somebody to be more successful on the outside, you need to start rehabilitating them on the inside. Not just lock them up. But yes, can the prison change? The question is, does the prison want to change?
The big issue that we have to attack here is the way in which we as a society deal with the scourge of drug addiction.
Jeremy himself was in a drug program when they came to arrest him. He didn't want to go to prison, he didn't want to use drugs. A much better way of dealing with this is dealing with his problem.
All the people that I speak to in the prison committed a crime or crimes under the influence of a substance.
What are the results? What are we really getting from this? Is society really better putting nonviolent felons away for life?
You're asking me about the war on drugs, and number one, it's not a war on drugs. It's a war on people. It's a war on families. Prohibition didn't work in the 30s, and it's still not working now, and yet we keep doing the same thing. We can't incarcerate our way out of what is essentially a public health problem.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Stewart. I really appreciate you just taking the time to listen to this. You know, I deserve to be in prison. I deserve to be in prison for a long time. I'll be the first to raise my hand and say I need to be in prison. But 70 years to life.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I've learned. It's been the hard way, but I've learned. I want a chance to prove to society that I am still a person that has value. I'm not some piece of trash that deserves to be thrown away. 70 years to life does not allow somebody like me to show that I can be a benefit and not a burden.